And we're back with another video. I sure hope no monsters show up. I'll just go back inside. So, for today's video, I'll be making some cryptid Fakeamon. If you don't know what a cryptid is, it's essentially an animal or creature that hasn't been proven to exist. Think like Nessie or Bigfoot. I was first introduced to cryptids around elementary school, with this book, Mythical Monsters. It was super fascinating to me as a kid, probably in part because of all the crazy art. So I started out believing in some cryptids, but as I grew up, I learned more about skepticism and how to view things more critically. This isn't to say that it became more cynical, just that I don't think a lot of the evidence held up. So I'd have to say, I'm not a believer. However, I still enjoyed learning about folklore, and cryptids will always have a special place in my heart. They just look so cool. Which brings me back to the main point of this video, character design. I want to see how I can translate these cryptids into semi-plausible Pokemon designs. So without further ado, let's take a look at our first sighting. We're starting out with a Fakeamon based on the Loveland Frogman. The Frogman is essentially a large, upright walking frog that supposedly lives in Loveland, Ohio. Urban legends set the first encounter around the 1950s, with a businessman seeing multiple frogmen, sometimes under a bridge and sometimes crossing the road. In some tellings, a frogman is also seen holding a wand-like object that emits sparks. The next sighting is in the 1970s, when a police officer sees a possible frogman cross the road in front of his car. Another officer reported having seen it, but later walked that back and said it was actually a large escaped iguana with a missing tail. So yeah, lots of twists and turns in this lore. By the way, I'll be summarizing this info from a couple different internet sources, so please take these descriptions with a grain of salt. I wanted to keep the recap parts brief so that there's more time to talk about the designs, so I can't recount everything, but I'll be putting the articles they used in the description if you want to check them out for yourself. But yeah, keeping in mind the Frogman's connection to magic and mystery, I wanted to base it off a magician. It's got a little top hat, and I shaped the patterns on its body to look like a magician's outfit. I even tried giving it a wand in the first sketch, but it didn't feel that natural, so I scrapped that. I also tried to make it feel like a combination of a frog and a lizard, because I think that's an interesting part of the cryptid story, and it just adds to the ambiguity of the Pokemon. To be honest, I think this is my least favorite design of the video. There's just something about it that doesn't feel quite stylized enough to be a Pokemon. I think maybe I was trying too hard to differentiate it from the silhouette of other frog Pokemon that I ended up with something too far off. But you know, that just means it can only go up from here. Now it's time to reveal Froakie, the walking frog Pokemon, from Frog and Hocus. It's psychic and fairy type. Froakie lives on the outskirts of towns and cities and is rarely encountered in the daytime. Its favorite trick is to disappear. Our next Fakeamon is... drumroll please. You know it, you love it, it was in the thumbnail. It's the Flatwoods Monster! For reasons I can't really explain, the Flatwoods Monster has always been my favorite cryptid. I just think it's so striking, but also strangely cute. To get into the sightings, a group of children and 2 adults reportedly saw this creature in Flatwoods, West Virginia in 1952. The children had seen what looked like a light in the sky crash into a nearby property, and the group went to check it out. When they got there, they saw a red light and a large creature before fleeing. The descriptions from the group were of a humanoid figure with glowing eyes and a spade-like hood or head that seemed to be gliding. The sight was also said to have a nauseating smell in the air, so all of those aspects seemed like they would make for a pretty cool Pokemon. Something I was getting hung up on, though, was whether to incorporate the possible answers behind this cryptid. The biggest proposed explanations are that the light was actually a meteor and that the creature itself was a barn owl on a tree. I thought it would make for an interesting design to include those ideas, but that turned out to be harder to execute than I thought without just making decidui. So, this Prevo was born. It combines the explanations of the comet and the owl to make a weird little alien-like owlet. It's got the white and grayish body of baby barn owls, and some bright teal highlights to lead into the green of the next stage. I'm so glad I made this Prevo because I think it let me focus all of the things I love about the Flatwoods Monster into the next evolution. So here's Tycho, the Flatwoods Pokemon. Tycho is from Tyke and Tyto, the barn owl's genus. It is a flying type. Tycho is weighed down by the large disc around its neck. The sight of it shooting across the night sky has caused many paranormal rumors. Like I said before, the earlier sketches for this Pokemon were basically just decidui with a dress. When I settled on having a pre-vote, I started to go into more of the usual depiction of the Flatwoods Monster with that more geometric appearance. I think for Flatwoods Monster believers, or at least in popular culture, it's usually agreed upon to be an alien, so I included this UFO-like skirt. The top half of the body was also lacking some drama, so I made the spade shape bigger and more like a hood made out of light so that the head could just kinda float around in it. I tried to pose it with its arms out and fingers clawed like a lot of Flatwoods Monster illustrations, but it reminded me too much of the SpongeBob ice cream truck meme. Maybe that's just a me problem. Usually, the Flatwoods Monster is more associated with red because of some of the details in the eyewitness accounts, but I changed it to orange because I realized it had almost the exact same palette as Frocus. Here is Inspader, the Flatwoods Pokemon. From Spade and Invader. It is steel and flying. Inspader emits a mysterious bright light as it hovers. When this Pokemon is nearby, strange smoke will cover the surrounding area. Last but not least for this video, we have a 3-stage line. I thought it'd be fun to fit 3 different aquatic-based cryptids into one line. The first stage is based on Globsters, which is the umbrella term for unidentified remains of animals that wash up onto beaches or are found in the ocean. The process of decomposition can make these remains look pretty strange, but examinations usually reveal them to be from a known sea creature, like a whale or a basking shark. I'm not going to show pictures because I don't want to make you look at decomposing things, but there's plenty of images online if you can stomach it. Realistically, I feel like this inspiration would be a bit morbid for a Pokemon, but that's the joy of Fakemon, I guess. This is Gluppy, the outlandish Pokemon. I named it Gluppy because, look at it, its name is Gluppy. It's the ghost type. This Pokemon seems to prefer the water, despite being unable to swim. Gluppy will attempt to return to the ocean before being washed back onto shore. Gluppy's evolution is based on Steller's sea ape. It was reported by the naturalist Georg Steller while he was part of an expedition traveling near Alaska. He described it as having a head like a dog's, whiskers, a round body with a finned tail, and no front limbs or fins. While Steller watched it, it played with some seaweed and seemed to be interested in the ship. Eventually, Steller shot at it to try to get it as a specimen, but the creature swam away. Steller identified this animal's appearance and behavior with Simia mariana, another strange animal recorded by Conrad Gesser in the book Historia Animalia, hence the sea ape name. Side note, I was considering making some Pokemon based on the art in Historia Animalium. It's good stuff. A proposed candidate for the animal behind Steller's sea ape is the northern fur seal, which is what this design is also based on. I wanted it to have a mischievous look and stand more upright and also have those spots on its side, so that each stage of this line could have a different body pattern. My biggest gripe I have with this mon is that I ended up making it water ghost, but it doesn't really look like a ghost type. Type legibility is probably something I need to think more about when I'm doing these designs. All in all, it's not 100% accurate to either the sea ape, since it has those front limbs, or a fur seal with that tail, but I think it turned out pretty cute, and it's a good segue into the final evo. This is Selkeen, from Cell and Seal and Keen. Selkeen seems to enjoy playing practical jokes on inexperienced trainers. It uses its powerful fins to flee when pranks go wrong. The last Pokemon of this video is inspired by the Ningen, a Japanese urban legend of an aquatic creature that lives in Antarctic oceans. And before anyone says something, I don't think Satitan is based on the Ningen. I think it's just a reference to whale evolution. I can kind of buy it with Satatal, but I think I need more evidence. Speaking of evidence, stories of the Ningen originate from forum posts, and there doesn't seem to be much solid corroboration outside of that. I actually really like the idea behind the Ningen folklore as like this giant humanoid-ish cold water creature. It was even a partial inspiration behind this project I did in college. A lot of photo manipulations or artist interpretations showing the Ningen use a beluga whale as a base, and I also referenced that for this Fakemon. I also used some patterning on its back to make it look like water with chunks of ice in it. Instead of fins, I gave it these jagged finger-like things. If you look at a beluga skeleton, you can see it has these phalanges on its flippers, which reminded me of the Ningen's giant hands in this rendition. I also took its tail away because it was feeling too much like a regular beluga. I think it gives it more of a ghostly vibe now. This is Delflo, from the beluga whales genus Delphinopterus, and flow as in ice flow. It is water and ghost. Despite its size, Delflo is difficult to spot in icy waters. Its eerie vocalizations are sometimes mistaken for human singing. That's all for this video. If you enjoyed watching and would like to see more Fakemon videos or more art videos in general, please like and subscribe. I'm trying to have a video up every week on Saturdays, so I'll see you then. Bye!